CJ, let's fucking go! Welcome to another exciting live stream, guys. I'm your host, TeladiaPlays, and welcome to this very special interview, guys. I am interviewing the one, the only Josh Herrera from the Snyder community. But before we introduce him, I've got to give him a very special intro. So let me just see if I can find an intro um, that actually suits him. So let me find it. You know what? I'll just give him his intro. Where is it? Uh, hmm. Ah, we'll do this one. Hey,
Hey, Teladia, how's it going, my man?
welcome on my channel. Thanks for doing this interview. What's up, Bat Dan? Welcome on in.
Fitting that Bat Dan's here when Batman's here.
Yeah, thank you for doing this interview with me, man. It's like I know you're a busy guy. I know that you've been doing a lot of different things. So it's like I wanted to do this interview because I wanted to ask you a bunch of questions, of course. And considering you went to the Full Circle event and considering you're going to the Rebel Moon event, I really wanted to ask you those questions.
Yeah,
And and the chat as well will be asking questions too. So if you
okay.
guys do have any questions, let me put them in the chat and we will ask to Josh. So my first question, of course, is what got you into DC?
Oh man. Okay. Now you're going for the origin story, aren't you, Teladia?
Yes, I'm going for the origin story.
Yeah, no. Well, before we do that, I want to say thank you for asking me on. It's been a pleasure. It's been great getting to know you. And my first ever, I don't know if you remember, Teladia, my first ever time on YouTube. Actually, I think it was for Sil Abdul's birthday stream, and I think you were on there. I don't know if we were on this on the same time, but I
Right.
remember you were on that panel. So I remembered, being part of YouTube when you were on there, and I've been like, hey, we've done a few like things with Sil, but we've never done anything on your channel. So it's a pleasure that you would ask me. So thank you for
No,
that.
no problem. Like I said, I had to ask the origin question, of course. And
Yeah.
we got our first question, of course, from Batman. He said, "Are you gonna ask Zack Snyder any Saw questions?"
We'll get to that. We'll see. We'll see, Bat Dan. We will see. I don't know what the format's gonna be, but I'll talk about that more in a second. When it's on the top of my mind, let me answer Toladia's question real quick, and then we'll loop back around Bat Dan. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, Toladia, what got me into DC? This guy right here. My origin story as a DC fan probably started as long as I can remember having a memory.
Hmm.
When I was 1 year old, Michael Keaton's Batman '89 had came out, and I was
Right.
one when it came out. Literally, it came out. Batman '89 came out one day before I turned 1 year old. So basically, Batman '89 came out on my birthday. Um, and so, however, at the time, I don't think my parents wanted me to watch something that hardcore, right?
Hmm.
So my grandfather recorded me old Adam West TV show episodes. So the
Oh, okay.
'60s show, boom, pow, whack,
Yeah, yeah.
I still have them to this day. I still have VHS recorded episodes of Adam West Batman. And that was my actual first Batman was Adam West. So that was kind of like I guess I was one and I would just watch that. I didn't even know what I was watching, but I would watch Adam West and the powerful bright colors, right? And then sometime after that, I don't know how long they waited, but then they finally showed me Batman 89. And I was probably too young to see Batman 89, right? It's kind of a dark movie for a kid, but I loved it. I loved this character so much. When you see that opening of the Batman logo, I was hooked. And that led me to get into other stuff that was Batman, like the cartoons. So the Batman the Animated Series, right? But
Yeah.
before that came out, I had stumbled upon old reruns of the Super Friends cartoon. And Super Friends was the first time watching a TV show. Hey, what's going on, Sin Havoc?
Hey,
Uh,
Sen.
the first time that I knew that Batman was friends with Superman and Wonder Woman and the Flash and Green Lantern. Like, I was blown away. I had no idea Batman knew all these characters, right?
Right.
So honestly, like, I attribute Batman to not only me being a DC fan, but pop culture in general. Because through Batman and the power of the cartoons and the movies, TV shows, merchandise, right? I started learning little by little about the expanded DC universe. And that got me involved in comic books, right? And then when I
Yes.
started learning about comic books, then I started learning about other companies like Marvel, right? And so Spider-Man and X-Men and those cartoons. And then I learned about movies in general and Star Wars. So Batman really was my gateway drug, so to speak, as a DC fan.
Okay. So obviously back then I asked you that question about Zack Snyder and his cell questions, of course. And if you guys coming in late, you guys can ask Josh any questions and we'll put it to Josh and he will answer them for you.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm glad you're doing this interview because I've seen some of your other stuff and you've done some amazing work on your channel, Teladia. So shout out to you.
I appreciate that. I mean, for me, like I'm a big Superman fan. I've always
Yes.
adored Superman. Kind of because I'm like an outcast basically. I'm a guy that's basically never fitted in with other people, basically because I'm a disabled person. So me being a disabled person, it's like I'm never going to fit in with people because of that. But that's never stopped me from doing the right thing.
Yes.
So it's like I can resonate with Superman compared to Batman.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone, of course. You have Still Nation
Yes,
and this
of
YouTube
course.
community that you've cultivated. And look at these amazing people in the chat already showing up. Like,
Hey, Lucifer,
talking
the
about
Lord.
super friends. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I knew you were a Superman fan because you had the Superman T-shirt at this Full Circle event, and I was just like, "Isn't Josh a Superman fan?" So I was just like,
So
and that's what I
yeah.
had to ask, like, your origin. It was like,
So definitely, I am 100% a Superman fan. I just got to be honest, the reason I wore this, one, I don't really have a ton of like gaming stuff, and I wanted to wear my favorite franchise is the Arkham franchise, right? So I
right,
wore
yeah,
this, but Batman is my number one. However, very close second is Superman because as a kid, like this is actually a cosplay shirt.
yeah,
Anything with capes, Teladia. I was a
yeah,
sucker. Anything with capes. So I think that's why, my first exposure to any superhero was Batman. And I just
right,
liked that. And that I think as a kid, something I'm come from the world of like work of like psychology and sociology, right? I always
right,
think why? Why did I like DC, right? Well, after I saw Batman, guess what I wanted? A cape like Batman. So
yeah,
my grandmother who would watch me during the day while my mom was working, she would give me a towel with a safety pin, and I would be able to act like Batman running around with a cape. I didn't have a mask or anything, but I had a cape. And
yeah,
I found out there was another superhero that had a cape but he didn't have a mask. It was perfect because I was like, I'm Superman now. All I have to have is a cape. So thank you so much. Um, I yeah, I quickly fell in love with Superman thanks to the Super Friends.
right,
My first exposure to Superman, you know, Batman, it was different. It was Adam West, the TV show, and then Michael Keaton, and then Super Friends. I found a cartoon Batman. For
Yeah.
Superman, my first experience was the cartoon,
Yeah.
was Super, and before that, actually the Flesher cartoons. Do you remember those? The old
Yes.
school Max
Oh
Fleshers.
yeah, they're on YouTube. Like there's like
Mhm.
dozens and dozens of episodes on YouTube where you can watch them. So it's like it's for me it's like reminiscent is like because when I grew up I was it was around it's in the 90s. So for me it was like Batman the Animated Series was a big hit for me. Super as for the Superman fan it was like Lois and Clark, The Adventures of Superman. That
Yeah.
was a big hit, and also with the Superman the Animated Series, they were simultaneously playing at the same time.
Hmm.
So my exposure to that was Superman the Animated Series and Lois and Clark. So
Do you remember that episode of Lois and Clark where she eats the head of a frog?
yes,
I remember seeing that as a kid and freaking out. I didn't even
it
know.
was crazy.
I just caught the middle of the episode at my dad. My dad was having like a party with his friends, and he was like, I was bored, so he was like, "Here, watch Superman." And he turned on Lois and Clark, and I guess it was the end of the episode, and you see, I knew it was Lois Lane because of Super Friends and the Flesher cartoons, but then I see her Terry Hatcher eat a head of a frog, and I started freaking out. I was like, I still need to finish that episode.
I mean, there's a saying in Comics League that we have a little like a joke. Well, we take it seriously in Comics League that Lois Lane is Lois Lane because the character. Because,
I have thoroughly heard the rants from Jared. Yes, very
yeah,
very much so. Yes, and I've had the
yeah,
pleasure of being on his channel as well. So
yeah,
I know the inside jokes for sure.
yeah. Backdown's got another question for you. You love the Arkham franchise. Do you consider the new Suicide Squad game canon to the Arkhamverse?
All right. I was wondering when somebody was going to bring this up, and I told Teladia backstage that I'm very glad you had me on this stream because I've not been able to talk with anybody about the Arkham game and specifically Suicide Squad Kill the Justice
Y-
League.
Yeah,
So, just to preface before I answer that question, everybody needs to know. I know this is TeladiaPlays. He's a gaming guy. I consider myself a gamer, but over the years, I've kind of become more of a collector. I would say I have tons
yeah,
of games, Taladia, tons. I'm looking at them right now. So
yeah,
many in storage, but a lot of them are shrink wrapped still because I get so many on sale. I'm a physical media guy. When I see a deal under $10, I become a hoarder. I'm like, oh, it's only $10, right? I know everything's going digital, but I need to have the physical disc. So I buy a game for $10 and then I'm like overwhelmed and then I just play the same Injustice 2 over and over again. But the whole reason I have a PS4, I'm sorry, the whole reason I bought a PS3
yeah,
was Arkham Asylum. So I got
yes,
it after I waited till Arkham Asylum had already been out like a year or so, and then I bought a bundle. It was a bundle from Walmart with a PS3. It came with Arkham Asylum,
yeah,
Uncharted,
yeah.
and I'm pretty sure Ratchet and Clank, the first one, something like that.
Right,
One of
right.
those. So it was a PS3 version. So yeah, the Arkham series is very near and dear to my heart. Um, as far as Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, I don't have a PS5. I have my PS4 Pro. So, being a fan of that franchise though, I was like, I want to be in the conversation. What is everybody talking about? And I saw your coverage that you had, and I loved it. With you had a lot of coverage on it. I've watched some of your reviews, the trailer reactions. I saw your talk with Sila Abdul. So I have not physically played Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. So I can't really like have the talk as like a gamer perspective, right? I did, however, watch. I'm pretty sure the version I watched was 11 hours of the playthrough of the game.
Right.
And because I was sick, I was healing from a tonsillectomy I had recently when the
Yeah.
game came out, so I didn't have anything to do, and there was a lot of conversation in Still Nation about the divisiveness. So I watched it, and from my perspective, might not be the popular one, and I know it might we might differ in opinions, Claudia.
Yeah.
I really think the way the game, the opening alone from Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, where they go to Arkham Asylum, right? And it's
Yeah,
filmed just like the very first shot from Arkham Asylum in 2009.
yeah,
Also, including the fact the Easter eggs, calling out the fact that there's a white dead shot and a black dead shot, calling out the fact that you go through a museum which literally recounts the events of every single game, including Arkham City, Arkham Knight, right?
yeah.
I have opinions about the story, but to answer your question, Bat Dan, yes, I do consider it part of the Arkhamverse. In my opinion, I do feel weird about some of the ways that certain characters were treated. Yes. Um, and that's a different question, obviously. But I'm kind of sort of like not willing to damn the game from a story perspective. Now, I do intend when I get a PS5 to play the game because that's a different story, right? Uh,
Yeah.
It's a different experience actually playing it
Oh
uh,
yeah, it is.
than just watching it. As far as the story, I do consider it part of the Arkhamverse. What do you think, Teladia? I want your honest opinions. It can be,
Okay.
different, but I want your honest opinions because you're very much in the know and you played it more and more so than I did.
So I can say that this is canon to the Arkhamverse, like just like you, right? And the thing is, like with this game, it didn't meet sales expectations to Warner Brothers, but I also believe that um Neo Sevens, thanks for popping in. I appreciate you. Make sure you hit that like button. Very much appreciate if you hit that like button. And if you want to put a super chat in, feel free to put super chats in, and I'll answer them. But as far as Suicide Squad goes, for me, it's like after playing it, it was so much struggle for me just to continue on playing the game
Mhm.
because there was so much bugs in the game. I wasn't able to play with my friends to the point where even doing the end game stuff, it's like I can't continue the game because I can't do it a solo. Yeah, it's very
Wow.
difficult.
Because I
It's
had heard that, right? Like there was something like giving the game 100% completion right away, right? Or something like that.
yeah, so there was that bug, but they fixed that. But the problem a lot of people are facing right now is logging into the game
Hmm.
or being able to load into Metropolis, or better yet, being able to connect with friends. They've not been able to do that at all.
Mm,
So, so like for me, it's like as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna play the game until Joker comes out now,
yeah,
because that's
it's a broken game
it's
then.
a broken, yeah, it's a broken game, yeah, pretty much. And I don't blame the devs for this 100%. I literally blame Warner Brothers Discovery for putting that much pressure on the development team for
Mm,
expecting them to live up to the expectations of Hogwarts Legacy, because you can't compare two games of the same thing. Which, by the way, guys, I will be making a video about this
mhm.
because the thing is, Hogwarts Legacy is it's a different genre
Right.
entirely, and Suicide Squad is a different genre. So it's like you can't compare them. It's unfair.
Well, I was
And
in the store looking at the price of it. It's like a $90 game, right?
yeah,
Like,
it's about $100 if you want to get the deluxe edition with the Justice League skins and
right,
the Notorious stuff and early access for 72 hours and whatnot. The reason why I got the deluxe edition was basically because I'm a content creator and I have to cover the game.
right.
But it's like, if I was you guys though in the chat, I wouldn't touch the game.
Yeah,
I would not touch Suicide Squad until they fix it.
that's
Until
what
there's a
it's.
lot of until they fix it, until there's a lot of bugs, because as soon as one bug is fixed, another bug happens. So
Mm.
so that is something I would recommend you guys to wait until until everything dies down and until they fix everything.
But then
Then I would purchase it.
at, at that point, then it's like they're having all this DLC, and then you turn your player base away. Then you don't even want to have co-op with your
With your
friends.
friends. Exactly. Yeah.
So they kick themselves in the
in
And
the,
but
they sh- yeah,
basically,
yeah, yeah, they actually did themselves a wrongdoing here because I don't think they should have done a live service game. But hey, what can I say? I mean, I digress. There's nothing we can really do now
yeah.
until they fix it.
And so
But
in that,
Josh,
go ahead.
I wanted to ask you because it's not about me. It's about you. This is about you. I said this before. This is not about me. This is about you. So I wanted to ask you this. Um, with comics, what was your first comic you picked up?
Ooh, that's a hard. Okay, because I want to say I probably didn't really get into comics until it probably was around the time that Batman the Animated Series came out. Because it was
Right.
by that time I was, let's see, I was like 3 or 4, so it was a little bit more. I wasn't gonna just rip pages out, and try to like do crazy stuff, right? I kind of started knowing what it was and looking at the pages, really, never really reading. But I would say I don't know. I can't remember, to be honest with you, Taladia, the exact comic, but there used to be spin-off comics of Batman the Animated Series called Batman Adventures.
Yes.
You remember
Yeah.
those?
Yes,
So
I
they
do.
basically told stories in the universe with Kevin Conroy's Batman, Mark Hamill's Joker, and blah blah blah. And the first arc, one of the first comics I remember, I think it was issue 5. I'm pretty sure. So basically, the first issue I think of Batman Adventures had Penguin, I think it was Penguin.
I
And
believe so. Yeah.
at the end, there's like a mysterious man and somebody pulling the strings. And the second one was Catwoman, I think. The
Hmm.
third one was Riddler, I think. Maybe it was episode 4, or it was probably episode 4, comic issue 4. So basically, it's Joker. So Joker shows up, and I remember having that comic book with Batman and Joker. So basically, you find out it's a connected story arc, and Joker kidnaps a comic book artist. I don't know if you've ever read this or you're familiar with it. You can look it up online. But
Yeah.
he's at Joker kidnaps Batman and this comic book artist, and the comic book artist Joker's threatening him to basically write the comic of how Joker kills Batman. And they're at a golf course, like a mini golf course. I remember this. And there's kids. Joker kidnaps kids too. And so Batman and Joker start fighting. And long story short, at the end of the comic, you realize the comic you were just reading was the comic that the comic book artist was drawing. So basically, he's drawing the comic that you were reading, and it's
Yeah.
basically how Batman took down the Joker. So that
Okay.
was I can't honestly I have to look at it, but I can't remember what that issue was. But it's part of the first few arcs of Batman Adventures, and then eventually it was Batman and Robin Adventures, and
Yeah.
I would go to the comic book store all the time, Teladia. I would convince my mom and my aunt. I remember to take me all the time. And they were like, "What do you want? What do you want?" And I was like, "I want the cartoon Batman." And so I still have tons of those to this day. Um, I have mostly the Batman and Robin adventures, but I remember
Right.
that one issue of that Batman and Joker comic. Unfortunately, I didn't keep it. I read it so much that it was like the cover fell off, it was still
Yeah.
stapled on the sides, but the pages were getting creased. They were all kind of ripped to shreds, but I honestly probably still have it somewhere. Some of my first comics, they're not collectibles at all, but I still have them somewhere because they're just near and dear to my heart. But yeah, it
Okay.
probably would be Batman Adventures, the ones that were based on the animated series. That was my first.
Do you still collect comics like New 52, like New 52 Justice League or New
Yeah.
52 Superman or New 52 Batman?
So the problem with me is, yes, I still collect DC comics. However, I will say, the what was the start of the decline for me? I feel like
Yeah.
the comics has declined, and my pull list and everything that I stopped buying significantly decreased around. I guess remember there was like the endless winter event that they had. There was like a Frost King giant. It was, I think it was right before the dawn of DC. Um,
Oh yeah.
but it was basically, I guess it was right after was it Convergence? I get the timelines
Yeah.
confused. I loved
Yeah.
Rebirth. I did love Rebirth. I love New 52. Um, to be perfectly honest, so what happened with me, to backtrack, I collected comics that were, like I said, more based on like the cartoons, right? And then eventually I
Yeah.
started collecting other things like, the actual comics books, like Detective Comics and stuff. And
Yeah.
I didn't know for a long time, Teladia, how comics worked. I didn't understand that if I wanted to read this story, I had to just collect Detective Comics. I would just see one comic, get Detective Comics and read that, and then be like, oh, and then Batman. Okay. Oh, and then Robin number three, because there was Tim Drake had his own comic called Robin 3. Okay, so Robin 3. Okay, now this one, so I have different random comics in my collection to this day. So that happened for a long time, and then I learned how comics worked. So then when Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb's Batman Hush came out, there was a cover of Batman kind of charging, and in the background a skeleton of Robin, the Jason Todd suit. And Hush, I think, was in the background, his face too. So I
Right.
remember I went to a comic book store, and that comic book issue, it was like it was the one right before the finale. So it was when Clayface, or spoiler alert, when Clayface is disguised as
And,
Jason Todd and he's holding
yeah.
a knife to Tim Drake.
Hmm.
It was that issue. And I didn't know, I didn't read the story. So all I saw was, wait, Jason Todd's alive? And so that led me to end. So, anyways, yes, I did start collecting comics through New 52, loved Rebirth, but now I do collect comics, but mostly it's like uh, World's Finest, the one with
Yes.
Dan,
Oh yes.
Dan
Yes.
Mora, I think it's his name.
Yeah.
Uh, I love that one just because of the art, just because it's fun. And very, like, admittedly, I still buy the comics, and I kind of end up like hoarding them, just like my video games. I buy them, and then I'm like, oh, I'll read that, and then I just kind of put it away in my long box. So I have so many, I have so many right now, and they're all unread. But I was getting a lot into the Black Label stuff. I love the Black Label stuff. I have the infamous Batman penis issue. Did you hear about that one where it's Batman Doom, I think, or something like that?
Yeah.
Where they showed his junk. I have that one. I remember I have all of the like Joker and Harley Quinn ones, like the Harleen ones. So yes, to answer your question, I do still collect comics. Not a lot as what I used to.
Right.
It's very much less like one-off stories. The one thing I am very much into is I don't have it near me, but Godzilla or Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, because I'm a big Godzilla and Kong fan. So I'm loving that mashup right now of Justice League
Okay.
versus
Cool.
Godzilla versus Kong.
So I got a bit of a surprise for you. We will be having my co-host coming on the show.
All right.
So Jared from Comics League will be joining us shortly. As he wants to, you know, have a say as well, ask you questions as well as me. But I've got to ask you this: what was your first like? You obviously came into the Cell movement, so Cell Snyderverse to Netflix movement, um, quite early on. Like, what was like what really felt like you felt like you're welcome to the community? What made you feel like you're appreciated here than, than any other community that you've been a part of?
No, it just so I've always been watching you guys, like, part of, mostly, honestly, Celeb Duel's channel.
Yeah,
But of course, he would always bring open panels and bring you guys on, and I would see you guys in the chat. I never really interacted, right? I never interacted, but I always watched you guys.
yeah,
And so after Full Circle, like, I tell the story, I've told it many, many, many times, but the first day of Full Circle, Man of Steel Day, the first people to come up right behind me in line were Scylla Abdul and Skywalker the Jedi. They were the first people.
Wow.
So I turned around and I told Sky and Sil, "Hey, is this the Sil Nation section?" And they were like, "Hey, you know who we are?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so basically I told him, I was like, I've watched y'all, but I haven't, y'all probably don't know who I am because I never have like said my name or commented on the chats or anything like that. But I know who y'all are. So then after that, I just kind of saw Sil and Sky and Leon all weekend long, interacting with Zach, talking with Zach. And then I remember the last day on Zack Snyder's Justice League Day, uh, Sky told me, he was like, "Hey, I got something to show you. I know you don't usually watch live, you do replay crew." He's like, "I'm gonna announce it on my channel. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool." He said, "You might want to check it out." And I was like, "All right." So he gave me a heads up. And so I started watching live ever since then. And I got invited that open panel that I was talking about with Celeb Duel's birthday stream. I jumped on there and just interacted with some cool people like you and Mikey Sutton. And hey, what's going on, ladies?
Hey,
In
I was gonna I was
Jared.
gonna do
And
it.
Batan is pissing me off because I'm never wrong about Lois Lane.
I
What's
love
up, Josh? How you doing, dude? Yeah. It's
Without
the
Batman
real
and
BVS. It's the real
it
BVS.
is. I love that you're representing.
Heck yeah.
I
How are
got
you
mine
doing?
as
Oh,
well.
and Teladia is doing the whole shirt rip right there.
Yeah, you got to have the super friends.
Hey, I just thought, I was gonna do an intro for you, Jared, but you ruined that.
Super.
Well, and we all know Lois Lane belongs with General Zod. We all know it.
Oh yes, of course.
So it's
Did that ever happen? Did Lois?
No, it's my new thing because I hate her with Superman. So I'm like, her character actually works best with General Zod because they're both evil.
Because I was thinking of that. Remember that Justice League Gods and Monsters animated where Zod was the character?
Technically, that would count. That is true,
Right? Because I think
canon.
that would actually work. Technically, that's true. That's actually a good point, Josh. I never thought of that.
See, caught it.
There you go.
And Batman says, Jared, yes, Jared, you're always wrong.
And to the sales, I'm not wrong. So there you go.
I
What's
do.
up, Jedi?
Hey, I love y'all's guys' coverage in the series. I have watched some of y'all's not all of them, not caught up, but I did watch your series, Jared, that you've been going, and I've learned a lot actually because I'm familiar with the first part of the Superman Wonder Woman arc,
Yeah.
but now the middle version that happened, I was like, oh, I didn't know all this happened, and so
You mean him turning into Doomsday? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember because I had the action figure. There was a DC multiverse before
Doom.
Yeah, and so I remember the action figure, and I think I even have the comic too, but I never got around to reading.
Oh my gosh.
So
the problem with reading Volume 2 is that it's all a bunch of tie-ins for that event. So if you don't have the separate trade that has the event, you're like, the hell is going on?
That's the good and bad thing about New 52, right? Like it was a money-making thing, but it kind of
first volume is stellar.
Yeah. I remember that, and I loved revisiting that with you guys discussing it. It was a little
I mean, it's literally Zack Snyder's Justice League.
A lot of it is. If you notice, do the designs for Feora and Zod's uniforms look a little familiar?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like maybe a certain director was inspired.
Oh yeah. Oh well, New 52, Snyderverse is totally. I mean, y'all have said this, right?
It's a mix of New 52 and post-crisis, a mix in the best way possible. The only way it could be better is if Superman was with Wonder Woman, but you know what? Zack Snyder is good enough. The Snyderverse is perfect enough. I'll take what I got.
And that background that you have, Teladia, like that's iconic. The Justice League War or whatever, the animated version. But
that's Zack Snyder's Justice League. That is 100% what that is.
That's why I decided, use it for all my shows, for my DC shows, my DC coverages. I just use this as a background, and it works.
It works
because Jared was just like, forget Rebirth. Why don't we just
Rebirth sucks?
And just
because what Rebirth basically turned into is screw the New 52 and all of its fans, let's go back to what made us want to reboot with Flashpoint in the first place. This is definitely not counterproductive.
And back then, I don't agree with you there. I have to push back on this one.
Actually, according to Zach, no. Because Zach even said it doesn't work. And what's kind of funny, Josh, when you look into like the level of mismanagement of DC Comics, it's exactly what happened to the Snyderverse. The new 52 everything, when like they started to bring in the old stuff and that screwed up with the actual timeline. Where have we heard this before?
Yeah, like it is fascinating that, and I'm glad that Teladia, you're on that, the show with Jared. So because y'all talk about these things, because I haven't caught up recently with comics, but the drama that happened around 5G, and
oh gosh.
So that was what I was trying to say, Teladia, like that. I forget what that was called, what that turned into after
Future State.
Future State.
Because what happened is that they canceled it, but they already had all the art and everything drawn up. So they're like, we're not going to waste it. And then it turns out being a waste because nothing really came of that event.
And it's interesting, like I go out, and there's still like clearance action figures of like John Kent, and I even I thought about what's happens to the new Wonder Woman, Yara, what's her name?
Okay, yeah. So here's what happened. So, well, actually, first off, the reason why John Kent's on clearance is because here's what these comic book companies don't realize. You can't have two of the same mantle. You can't have two Aquaman because, Josh, if I were to go down my street in the daytime, obviously, because it's nighttime here and I don't want to be creepy, and I knock on someone's door and I say, who's Superman? They're going to say Clark Kent. They're not going to say John Kent. They're not going to say Batman's Jace Fox. They're not going to say Aquaman's Calderon. They're going to say, if they know who Aquaman is, Arthur Curry, Bruce Wayne. They're not going to say all these derivative characters. So that itself is stupid. But what they did with Yara is kind of funny. The series came out and it was actually well written. And then she vanished. But now Tom King's Wonder Woman brought her in, which is sad because Tom King is not exactly the most happy comic writer.
Yeah.
For those of you that have read his Batman run know what I'm talking about.
So, Jared, this is the question for you.
Lois Lane and Wonder Woman's counterpart are the same person. What do you think of that character? It's kind of funny. I never thought about that. Well, see, here's my problem with that. That version is it's kind of funny. That version is sleeping with both Ultraman and Night Owl, or is it called Night? The point is she's sleeping with both. So I'm like, that's even worse. And what's kind of funny? Isn't it kind of funny how the evil version of Wonder Woman is named Lois Lane?
Good point.
That's very key there. They named it that for a reason.
So I have a question for both of you. I know it's about me, Teladia, but
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Have y'all watched the animated Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1?
Yes.
I know exactly what you're referencing.
I know where you're going with this, John, because I made him.
He DMs it. I was going to watch it anyway because I like DC animated movies. So he DMs me and says, you got to watch this movie. Something happens with Super Wonder. So I'm like, okay. So I tell my co-host of my Super Wonder show that I do on my channel. And then she goes, they kiss. Oh my gosh. And then here's the funny part. The movie comes out the next day. That is all the internet talks about. That 40-second scene is all that Twitter talks about. And it's all like the purists blasting it. And there's actually people that are concerned, what if DC does this in the live action? And I'm like, oh, you mean the movies will actually sell? Because here's what people don't realize. That pairing book in the new 52, that was one of the highest selling Superman books and Wonder Woman books ever.
I have a friend who was diehard Marvel, loved X-Men, didn't really care about DC, but when Super Wonder happened, that comic literally made him a DC fan. So I kind of like what you say, Jared. I'm kind of like
it worked.
I do like Lois Lane, but because it makes new fans of DC, I'm like, hey, Super Wonder, if it brings in new fans, I support it. So
yeah, well, 100%. And the thing is, it's kind of funny. I have a buddy of mine who runs my website, and even he goes, I thought they were always together. And I'm like, no, because of nostalgic fans. Speaking, it's kind of funny how we deal with overly nostalgic fans as Snyder fans and with me as a Super Wonder fan. So I'm really the double black sheep of this fandom.
Hey, there's a place.
Josh, I gotta ask you this, right?
Yeah.
You went to the Full Circle event.
I
What
did.
was it? What was
Lucky
it like?
bastard.
Hey, remember PG?
I know. How was the
Uh,
Snyder cut in IMAX?
yeah,
Oh,
that's my first part of the question. Second part of the question: what was it like to meet Zach in person? Like
Oh
you
yeah.
probably talked to him.
yeah. So I'll answer that because that was meeting Zack Snyder was the first day. So
Mhm.
that is the entire event, you know, guys. Like I really, for any Snyder fan, like I wish everyone had that opportunity to just be in that mecca of just positivity. That event not only was at Zack Snyder's, you know, alma mater, the Art Center School for Design in Pasadena.
Yeah.
It was just so everyone was working there, was with AFSP, you know, volunteers, so happy to be there, so happy to have fans support a charity cause like
Mhm.
AFSP, right? And immediately when we got there, I was just greeted with people, other fans in line, right? And we just started talking. And so it was like, I don't know if y'all have ever, either of y'all have been to a Comic Con, but you know, just like the sense of
Mhm.
just like
Yeah.
joy that you have.
Community.
Yes, community and just mutual love for art, you know. That's
I've
what
seen that. I'm walking into the movie theater wearing a ZSJL hoodie, the one with the logos on the sleeves, and someone turns to me and he goes, "Restore the Snyderverse." As we walk by, like it's a secret society, and I'm like,
just pass it off.
"What the
Yeah.
heck?"
And that's what it's so awesome because right on the internet we all think that nobody cares about this, right?
Mhm.
Because we hear so much hate and so much negativity, but then when you start literally meeting people, they may not be like your next door neighbor, but they might be somebody, you know, another street down or you know 3 streets down, but there are more of us out there, right?
Yeah,
And there's a lot more than we think, and I met people
yeah,
from all over the world. So
yeah.
that first day it was awesome because you went in and then there were the statues of Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Dark Side, the Wonder Woman, the Nightmare
I
Batman,
want
the
all those.
yeah, like they were all the Dark Side was amazing. See, it is
Mhm.
massive for if you
Mhm.
people who have it. So you could bid on those, right? And you could get the t-shirts, the posters. You could talk with AFSP, which is what I did. I networked with the AFSP volunteer and then ended up doing a walk for suicide prevention in my city. So it was just a great lobby experience. But then you go outside because you got tickets to redeem 2 food items and 2 dessert items and 2 alcoholic beverages if you were of age. So as I go out into the courtyard, there's just a massive line of people, and I look and I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, Zack Snyder's right there. He's meeting people. And I was like, wait, what? So I spent so much time in the lobby that by the time I got in line, uh, it was a long line. So I waited my turn, but meeting Zack Snyder, as soon as it was my turn, I got it all on video. Luckily, one of the volunteers like filmed it while it was happening. Like Zack is just such a cool guy
Yeah,
to
he seems really
everyone,
cool.
not just like you know one to every single person in line. He gave his all
Mhm.
to that person. He made it seem like, okay, what can I do for you? You want a picture? Cool. You want a photograph? Cool. You want an autograph? Cool. Like, what can I do for you? And he was trying to drink his drink, right? Because it was an event. He was trying to
Yeah.
have fun. But he gave me like a hand clap, a hug, and I told him that I had went to the Warner Brothers studio tour because I did the day before, and there was a whole Zack Snyder
They
Snyderverse.
still have all of his stuff up there.
Yeah. And he was like, and I was like, yeah, all your stuff's over there and they're showcasing you. And he's like, oh, that's so kind of them. I know they don't want to, but so he kind of was like throwing a little
The
shade.
one quick question I would always ask Zach is, how does it feel being the first director to bring the Justice League to the main to the screen? Because that itself is like a nerd's dream.
I mean, I'm sure he's like, and honestly, like just seeing him not in that moment, but through the entire weekend, Teladia, you
Yeah.
can tell he is one of
One of
us.
us.
He's a
Yeah.
nerd. You can tell if you watch Justice League the animated series or Batman the animated series or Superman the animated series, you can tell Zack Snyder watched all that, or at least is familiar with that.
And he had the logical sense to not have Batman sleep with Batgirl.
Well, hey, We don't know. We know Batgirl.
Josh, don't ruin it for me. Don't ruin it for me.
Batgirl was going to be in Batfleck's script, so I don't. And that, but technically,
no.
That was Ben Affleck. So
yeah. But by the way, you should see it. So we were doing the watch along for BVS, and the minute he starts talking about Wonder Bat, I tensed up. Because I was like, oh no, am I about to have my first disagreement with Zack Snyder? Then the minute he says it doesn't work and Teladia was there, I jumped out of my chair and I was like, yes! He gets it!
Because I think in Zack's mind, it's Batcat, right? Like,
yeah.
I think
Batman was going to be with Batgirl in his movie. Plus, here's the thing, and he played off of this. What he was doing with BVS is just flirting. That's what they do. That's what they've always done, the comics. And what's kind of funny is like, here's how I knew that Zack read more comics than people give him credit with. Are you ready? The minute he uses KG Beast as a villain, because for those of you that don't know, KG Beast is not exactly a villain that like everyone knows. You have to be a comic book scholar to know who the hell the big Russian dude with a machine gun for an arm is.
Flamethrower hand.
Yeah, flamethrower arm in this case. But yeah, the minute I was like, we ever heard that name before? Oh, that's KG Beast. He does know comics. My one criticism of BVS, though, is that cramming the death of Superman with Dark Knight Returns in one movie was a bit much, but it still flowed together well.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, Zack, that pull, having a kind of obscure character for our first version of Batman is something you wouldn't expect. And it was cool that it was like, it wasn't really KG Beast yet, but it was Anatoly Knight. Right.
Well, we know who that is. Also, it's actually kind of funny about this. The way Zack can handle these characters. My mom is a DC fan because of him.
Oh, wow. What was her favorite movie?
I think it was the SJL.
Yeah.
Well, that's my favorite too. I've seen it 15 times. So there is that. But it's really because here's the thing. He treated them like gods amongst men. And that's kind of DC's edge over Marvel. So to see someone actually treat them like gods, I was like, he basically treated them the way I see these DC characters. So I was like, okay, you get it. You get DC.
And to finish Teladia's second part of his question, like just what you're saying, Jared, to see ZSJL in IMAX. I don't know if y'all know this, but y'all know that they specially modified the IMAX screen for us so that normally, so it was at the Universal AMC City Walk 19. So normally just an IMAX screen is just flat. They actually, from what I understand, tilted the screen, modified it so that we kind of had the screen envelop us when we were watching it. So if we were sitting in the chair, the screen was kind of all you saw was the screen by looking up at it.
Wow.
And my experience was especially amazing because I don't know if y'all saw the videos on Twitter. We were just chilling, me and the guys that I was sitting with in my row, and Ray Fisher, Ray Porter, Chris Terrio, and one of the other guys that was worked with them sat right behind us.
Oh, wow.
In our row. So like every time when Darkseid showed up for the first time, I turned around and I gave a fist bump to Ray Porter. I was like, yeah. And so I would just turn around. I tried to, it was hard. I wanted to just every moment they were on screen, like turn around and like high five them, right? But I also
it's you. It's just it's you.
But when I saw Ray Porter, I had to yeah, Darkseid, and I was able to give him.
Speaking of Ray, I have to show off the hot toy.
That's amazing.
Show off the hot toy.
He broke his wallet because he bought all the hot toys.
I don't have Flash or Aquaman yet. I need those two, and then I have I have Black Suit Superman, Nightmare Batman, BVS Wonder Woman, and Cyborg.
And Kingdom of Nerds, thank you for the $5 super chat. He's got a question for you. What do you guys think of Kong becoming a Green Lantern in issue 5 of Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong?
So, oh my gosh. I've only got up to issue 3. I'm behind.
It's such a good series.
It is, right? So far, like I have issue 4. I just haven't read it yet. And I pre-ordered all of them because I wanted to make sure they were in. I want the
It was
variants.
instantly all on my pull list. Yes.
Yes.
The one at I'm shooting myself in the foot because I didn't get the Batman punching Godzilla in a mech suit. I didn't get that.
You didn't get the Jim Lee
I
one?
didn't get that variant cover. I'm like,
dude,
no.
I have it. I have it. Yeah. I have multiple covers actually because they're so beautiful. But as far as Kong becoming a lantern, I haven't caught up, but the way the series has been doing so much amazing, collabs between the Monsterverse and the Justice League, DC's universe, I can totally see it because Kong has the willpower, right? He's not gonna give up. He's a little bit more intelligent, I would say, than Godzilla's intelligent. No shade to Godzilla fans, but I think Kong is a little bit more not gonna stop, right? Even though. So I feel like he's worthy of the lantern.
Kong with that Green Lantern. That's just the coolest visual I've ever seen.
Oh wow. Oh wow. I've just seen what Lucifer just sent me.
Did he send you the picture of King Kong with the Green Lantern ring? Yes.
Yeah. Oh shoot! So it happens.
It does happen.
And here, hold on, I'm doing it.
All right. Good Lord.
Wow.
Good Lord. But shouldn't he have a Green Lantern suit instead of just the lantern, though?
Yeah, he's not that.
Jared, Jared, you know what this reminds me of?
What?
King Shark.
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
Yalinger.
Yeah. Or better yet.
Let's be honest. If ever there was going to be a scene when King Kong gets a Green Lantern ring, it would have to be in a movie directed by Zack Snyder.
Shoot, yeah, like that would, oh god, that would be amazing. And the Monsterverse movies, they very much reference BVS, right? In the way that there were certain attacks and I don't know if y'all seen the new trailer too. You can just tell there's like influences of BVS, right? The Versus movie.
Even in Superman and Lois, and I love when all the Superman and Lois fans attack the Snyderverse, and I'm like, you realize that the people that make that show directly reference the Snyderverse.
It's pretty obvious, like, and in my opinion, like, it's pretty much like the Superman and Lois show is what was supposed to happen in Superman's story, like after the Snyderverse, right? Like
it works.
Having kids, right, and learning how to like adapt and with growing up with children. So, I love the that's blew my mind, Brucifer.
Yeah, and Brucifer, I gifted you a membership, so you're welcome.
The other thing, the other crazy thing that Zach had said at Full Circle that kind of it lit the internet on fire, but it also like maybe went okay when he basically implied that Zeus is a Kryptonian.
Yeah,
like
so
that actually is pretty cool.
It's funny you bring that up, Jared, because so I had a friend actually, when Full Circle, it was, I know not everyone was able to go, right? Because it was really hard to get tickets.
Oh yeah.
My experience, I kid you not, y'all, I was literally refreshing the moment, I was working from home, but I was refreshing on my phone. I was refreshing on my iPad. I had multiple devices. And luckily, I just, right as it happened, it got me in. I added 3 tickets. Boom. I didn't even know if I got in. I was like, wait, I don't know what happened. I just did it so fast. And then sure enough, I was shocked. And then I looked at my email and I got a confirmation. So by the time I was able to tell another friend that I was going to LA, like I didn't have plane tickets. I didn't have a hotel. I just got tickets first. And then I figured everything out. So then a buddy of mine, I used to live in New York City. I have a good friend who lives up there. He was like, wait, you're going to LA? It's like, yeah, I go into this event and I'm going to like go, I guess, do other stuff while I'm there. He's like, I want to go. So he didn't get tickets to Full Circle, but he knows I love Snyderverse. He knows I love Zack Snyder, right? So he dropped me off. He rented a car and dropped me off in Pasadena at all the event days. And so every day he was like, oh my God, that's Zack Snyder right there. Like he was seeing like the crowds and stuff. He was like, oh, that's cool. So then he was like, you know what? I'm going to hang out with you in line for ZSJL day. So he just did. He didn't have a ticket, right? But he just talked amongst the fans and in line with and heard what people were saying. So I told him, because in the day before was BBS day when he talked about that, right? And from what Zach said, that was the idea at first.
It was a rejected. I love how Zach gets heat for rejected ideas.
Right. So it's not canon, right? But
Canon.
that was the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was explaining that to my friend in line. I was like, yeah. So at the Q&A, he said, more than likely, the original intention was for Superman to kind of more or less be a descendant. I mean, Zeus to be a descendant of Superman's species, Kryptonians. And my friend was like, wait, what? Like the god Zeus? And I'm like, yeah, he saw Wonder Woman, but he never saw BVS. He never saw Man of Steel. He never saw ZSJO. So he's like, wait, the god in that, like, they're Superman? And I was like, well, they were supposed to be. That was what Zack Snyder would have done if he would. He was like, I have to go watch these movies. So literally, as soon as we got home, like back when I got home, he's like, I'm watching Man of Steel. Which one do I watch next? I said, okay, you have to watch the Ultimate Edition.
Yeah, be clear on that. Watch the Ultimate Edition. I was debating someone once about the Snyderverse because for some reason I'm that dude everyone comes to. So I'm telling her about it because she was very down on BVS. So I said, no. Here's what happens. Here's what happens. And she goes, Jared, that should be in the movie. If that's what happens, it should be in the movie. And I go, Tristan, I have to ask this. What version of the movie did you watch? And she watched the theatrical version of the movie.
The short one.
I'm like, no.
But I'll say this, right, Josh, I've got to ask you this question. You're going to the Rebel Moon event, right?
I am. Tomorrow.
Right? You are going tomorrow to that event. You're lucky. You went to the first one, if I'm correct.
So there was basically, I didn't go to there was the main event, which was 70 millimeter IMAX, which only had 4 screenings that were Netflix owned theaters. LA, New York, London, and Toronto, I believe. So then I guess there was so much demand that several theaters around select cities also offered a theatrical viewing, and there was one in my city, and I was lucky enough to be invited via email because I've always gone to advanced screenings. I'm in a city in a state where they consider us like a test market or middle America. So we have a lot of opportunities to preview Hollywood content before, and I've done this for over 10 years now since I was in college. So I saw Dune 2 a few days actually. I saw it Monday before it came out.
To watch it.
It's really it's much.
I've heard it's really good.
Much better than the first one in my opinion. But I really recommend it. You can even just watch the second one without even watching the first one. Honestly,
the minute the media is calling it basically a Zack Snyder movie, and I'm like, I'm definitely gonna like it. Then
I could definitely agree with that. Yeah, because But yeah, I got to see, to answer your question, Teladia, yes, I was able to see Rebel Moon in theaters with some of my friends. It wasn't IMAX like the main release, but now randomly, a buddy of mine, my same buddy who saw Rebel Moon with me in theaters, did yes, and I got to get Bat Dan. I was able to see that there was a Chicago screening, so I sent that to Bat Dan, and he was lucky enough to work around his busy schedule in the winter snow to go. But shout out to Bat Dan for going to see Rebel Moon in theaters. So yeah, randomly Zack Snyder, I don't know if he's celebrating his birthday in my city because his birthday was just this last Friday. I don't know what he's doing, if he's scouting for shooting locations. I don't know, but basically there's an Alamo Draft House in my city, and they're doing a screening of Rebel Moon tomorrow, followed with an in-person Q&A with Zack Snyder, followed by a theatrical screening of Dawn of the Dead, which I've never seen in theaters. So
wow,
I'm so
you are set, bro. You are set.
You are set. You are set. You are lucky as well.
Now, Josh, I have a question for you now. So there's been rumors about ZSJL getting a more wide release in IMAX by Warner Brothers. That's one of the things they're considering. I want to get your opinion on this. What do you think? if that comes out and it is popular enough, do they go, there's Elseworlds and Netflix, maybe we could do something here?
So, of course, I want to see the Snyderverse any way possible. From what I saw, and I might be mistaken, I interpreted the articles and the talk of what we saw as a physical media account tweeting that they were going to release the IMAX format of ZSJL, not necessarily a theatrical release. That's how I might be wrong, but would I want a actual theater release of ZSJL after seeing it in IMAX? Hell yes. Like you have to, right? But what I understood that article was saying, if you go to like, for example, Disney Plus, if you have Disney Plus, they have the IMAX versions of like Infinity War, the IMAX version of Civil War, and basically it's the way that the sides of the screens are cut off to make it like ZSJL. That's what I think the article was saying. I can be wrong though. I support ZSJL in theaters just because I feel like everyone
should see it. Everyone should see it in theaters. Absolutely.
And of course, I think that, like you're saying, Jared, that only furthers word of mouth, furthers hype, furthers demand.
Because you saw how big it was when it released on Max. I mean, you had people way outside of our circle tweeting out "Restore the Snyderverse." So,
and it really was like, I think people forget, and I think even the biggest haters, they were quiet at that time because from what I saw, there was detractors, of course, but overwhelmingly, and I tried to search outside of my circle, right? Because Twitter, when you're on Twitter, you're gonna get an algorithm of just yourself. But if you search certain hashtags and go through everybody, you can kind of see what people outside of your sphere are kind of saying. I wanted to know, what are people saying about this movie? It was overwhelming.
Hashtag I was wrong about Zack Snyder was trending that day.
Yes. And I'll be honest, like Teladia, I don't know if you know this about me. When I saw Man of Steel for the first time, I liked the movie. Don't get me wrong. I've told this Batman's interviews. Batman interviewed me and he almost kicked me off his show. And I said this, but I had, for context, I had just finished Smallville and I was a big Smallville fan. And so after 11 years of the development of Clark Kent and then kind of seeing Superman at the end, but not really, I was ready to see Superman, right? So when I saw Man of Steel, and we kind of we got Clark Kent, right? But not really Clark Kent, the reporter. There were like little elements where I was like, by the end of that movie, I turned to my friends and I was like, I don't know. They were like, wait, what? They were shocked. They were like, what do you mean? I don't know. I was like, I liked the movie, but I just don't feel like he was Superman yet. Well, then my friends were like, well, you're right. I was like, what do you mean? They were like, what's the movie called? I was like, oh, you're right. It's not called Superman.
It's called Man of Steel. And for you comic book fans, the Man of Steel comic was the Superman origin story in the post-crisis era of DC. Again, this is why I love Zack Snyder is the personification of that Big Bang Theory meme that's like, I don't need sleep, I need answers.
Yeah. And it was until BVS, like so it was opposite for me, Jared. When I saw BVS, then I was like, I get what he's doing. Hashtag I was wrong about Zack Snyder because it made sense. He wasn't just doing a Superman story. He was doing a story of Superman's evolution through the Justice League with Batman having to come, rough up the pretty boy, flawless, Clark Kent, give him the curl as you see in the third act when he's fighting Doomsday. He gets roughed up and then the
kind of the S-curl,
slowly but surely. So I thought that was so genius. Instead of just giving us the perfect Superman right away, let's show the character evolve, the man become the god that is Superman.
Because Zach has said, and it worked on me, because for the longest time I thought Superman was like not the best Superman. I was more of a Batman fan because again, I didn't understand the character. But what Zach said, I think he said he may have said it at a full circle or maybe at an interview, but he said, what I like to do is break down the characters to their fundamental core so you get who the characters are at their core. And then I build them back up. Because once you understand who they are at their core, then you can stomach all the stuff. And I was like, that's it. When I saw Man of Steel, I was like, that's why Superman, because the scene when the world engine is just pounding down on him and he's just raising up and then he just takes off, because my like headcanon is that when it like cuts to Perry and the other guy trying to get Jenny out of the rubble, that's Superman using his hearing and kind of hearing that people are suffering. He's like, if I don't stop this thing, people are going to die. So he just takes off.
Yep. Yeah, that was his motivation, right?
Yeah.
And there was like, I was literally just, it's funny you say that, Jared. I was just watching Man of Steel with my mom. My mom was hanging out with me yesterday. And she was like, we were watching the Battle of Smallville. And, you know, like he punches, you know, I'm sorry, Fiora. No, Fiora. I'm sorry. What's the other character's name? Malak? Malak. I forget what his name is. But
the larger Kryptonian.
Yeah, the train yard, right? But obviously he could use his he knows how to use his X-ray vision to know if it was abandoned. So you know,
and it was kind of funny when Zod throws that like fuel truck at Superman. You see him look backwards as he floats up. He's using his here's the thing. What Zach does, which is good. He doesn't have to show you explicitly what Superman is doing, but oftentimes he will, because one of my friends who's a hardcore Snyder detractor, one of the things she objects to is the Zod, like, is the killing of Zod. And she's like, why couldn't Superman have put his hand in front of Zod's eyes? And I go, well, in the Smallville fight, when his heat vision went off, he knocked Fiora's hand away.
Yeah.
He shows this. You just have to pay attention. In other words, actually watch the movie.
Mm-hmm. And it's all there. Zach, he's a classic filmmaker because he shows, he doesn't tell you. He trusts you to use your eyes.
Some people don't, but okay.
Yep, he does.
So, but yeah, I was going to ask you, Josh. Right? I know I asked you about video games earlier. We did talk about it. We talked about your love for the Arkhamverse. How would you feel if we ever got a Superman game, right? An open world Superman game made by the developers, whether it's Rocksteady, whether it's WB Games Montreal, and it's similar to the Snyderverse.
See, I'm glad you asked me this, Teladia, because, you know, like I kind of said earlier, you know, I kind of am a little bit, as far as story, right? I'm lenient on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, because I kind of feel like there's multiverse shenanigans, and I feel like people who didn't like this.
I got news for you. You kill clones. Those aren't the Justice League.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, I don't condemn the story. The gameplay and what Teladia was talking about, that's just ridiculous. Like,
there's some parts, let me put it this way. The game is not as bad as people say it is. There are some parts to not like about it, but it's not like this affront to DC that everyone points it out to be.
So the fact, here's where I think the Arkhamverse stumbled, Teladia, is that I don't think it was, I understand why, as a developer, right, you're like, oh, it's kind of hard, I think, to make a Justice League game, right?
Yeah.
Because then you have to figure out, okay, well, who are they fighting? What are they, how do you make Superman invulnerable, right? But it can be done. I've played Superman
Justice League
games.
Heroes. Justice League Heroes.
Justice League Heroes. But specifically what you're talking about, Teladia, like all that story that we got of how after Arkham Knight, Bruce Wayne came out of hiding thanks to Superman and the Justice League and rejoined. And even though everyone knew his identity, he was just, all right, I'm just going to be Batman again, right? Why didn't we see or play that? Why didn't we get a Nolan North and I know that you covered that amazing development of that that game that was supposed to be coming out that was canceled ridiculously, where you're fighting Zod, you're fighting Doomsday, you're fighting, I think it was Mongo even, right? They showed, or somebody like that.
No, it was Superman versus Doomsday in the 3D render.
Yes, where he's going through the walls into
and just
I think what the developers were like, well, it's easier. We already have this technology rendered for like a shooter, so we can just make a quick buck by slapping Suicide Squad over it, putting a shooter, making it a live service, and make bank microtransactions and all that, right? And then
Yeah.
controversy led and controversy. But yes, as far as the Arkham verse, that was the biggest fumble. Teladia was not. Why don't we've seen the Batman in the Arkham verse, right? We know that, but don't skip over all that.
That's what I think. That's what I think the next game is going to be. If they're smart, they'll greenlight a Superman or a Justice League game.
They have like that's what they have, and unfortunately, like I hope that there's still they don't try to make the lesson of like, oh, the Arkham franchise is dead, because unfortunately, we're not gonna have Conroy anymore. But
Yeah.
like I would love like a Nolan North Superman game.
Yeah.
You don't have to reference Conroy, right? Or you can, make it a post-credit scene where whatever Superman defeats, whether it be Darkseid, Brainiac, Mongol, whatever, Zod, even at the end of that, then he comes and he's like, "Hey, I need help from Batman, somebody who's been around. Bruce, I know that you're in hiding and you're the demon bat now, but we need, we need to unite because there's more threats coming." So I want that so much, Teladia. I even played. There was even a game called Superman Man of Steel. I don't know if y'all played it.
Yes.
On Xbox.
I played. What I did play that I remember is the Superman Returns game, and I still say that's the way to handle the invulnerability because the city is your health.
Yeah, and I love that.
That's a fun game. It gets a bad rap.
Jared, I have to push you back there because the city health thing was the problem for that game.
Oh, you think so?
Yes, but whereas that Blue Steel game was a different thing. It had like you crash through buildings. You had General Zod. There was going to be Supergirl was going to be a DLC character. Doomsday.
Every time I hear Blue Steel, I think of Derek Zoolander for some reason.
Yeah.
Was that there was so much, I'm not going to lie to you. I've been doing extensive research, and let me just say, if anything WB can do to make things right is to give the fans what they want, which is a Superman game.
Well, also in terms of Batman, they could continue it and just bring in like Bruce Greenwood to take over as the Arkham Batman. I think Greenwood would be the best because his Batman voice sounds very either him or Jason O'Mara. Their Batman voice sound close enough to Conroy.
I agree. Yeah. Like my second choice would be Bruce Greenwood because I do love his version.
Yeah, he works as like a transition from Conroy in that it's not too jarring. It's not like going to like let's say Adam West for some reason, but it's like he sounds close enough. In other words,
yes.
But yeah, it's a shame. I think I hope I know we're supposed to maybe get a Wonder Woman game. I don't know, but it feels like
that is. I can tell you that Wonder Woman game is still happening, and I have got some really good intel on that.
Okay.
So,
oh boy.
See, so I hope I would just feel like why couldn't you relate it to the Arkhamverse? But I have a feeling they want to do their own thing, which I get. I totally get.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I really would like a Superman in the Arkhamverse, like because there was so much teases through Arkham City, right, and even Arkham Knight, where they're talking about Lex Luthor,
and they talk about Superman the Flash. By the way, you could put all the Snyderverse suits as alternate costumes.
They did, right? Arkham Knight.
Can you imagine the ZSJL black suit Superman? In the Arkhamverse, that's the only suit I'm ever going to wear in that game.
And that's why I'm such a Injustice fan too. I don't know if you know this, Teladia.
You can use the Man of Steel suit.
And Michael Shannon Zod. You can use that suit too. And he even has his crest on there. So
Dave is saying, I'm betting the Arkhamverse will be rebooted into something else. After Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, the Arkhamverse can't continue without Conroy, just like the DCA can never come back without him.
Well, here's the thing. I feel like they could do it at just one game to like end the Arkhamverse more on a positive note, and then come back with. And I think in the new universe, if they're going to make a new continuity, make the first game a Justice League game.
Yeah, It's time,
But
right?
At
but
least a
but it's
Justice League game. I'll take a Superman game, but please give me a Justice League game.
I'm telling you guys, from what I know, I've been doing some extensive research, and let me just put it like this: we are probably going to get a Justice League game, sorry, a Superman game, or a Green Lantern game
Yes.
from WB Games Montreal.
I still
That is something.
say we need a Green Lantern game, Mass Effect style, a Mass Effect style RPG, but Green Lantern.
Sorry.
But I wanted to ask you, Josh, is like obviously, you got so many things going on, great for you. When are you gonna start a YouTube channel?
Yeah.
So I've kind of been dabbling in YouTube. Honestly, 100% honest with you guys. Like I kind of always the inside joke on my channel is that I keep on saying on other people's shows, and I'm not a YouTuber because I feel like with YouTubers you kind of got to be consistent and you got to got to be there for the people. And just in my life and what I have going on, it's very chaotic. Teladia, I kind of told some stuff backstage.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
coming up on a lot of like personal stuff. I've had to deal with some health issues of myself, and so it's just from my life. I've been invited on with other collaborators to do like weekly shows, but I had to be honest with them, and I'm like, I feel if I can't really commit and dedicate myself to like 100%, I don't want to like say or start something and then not be there for the subscribers and the content creators. So I do on my channel dabble here and there. I'm actually considering after this event tomorrow, I will probably do a video just kind of recapping everything that has gone on with my 2024 because I've had a surgery, I've had some stuff going on health wise, so I've kind of been away. I haven't been super active on Twitter, but I've been showing up for like important days like Zack Snyder's birthday and trending and stuff like that, and watching stuff on Netflix. But yeah, that's kind of the more thing with me is just I feel like if I'm gonna start a show or a weekly thing, it's got to be there for consistency, and I can't really commit to that right now. So I'd rather support the community as it is right now. And like when you invited me to Teladia, it's a lot easier for me to be like, okay, what one day do you need me to be free? And I'm like, okay, I can do that, right? But life's been crazy. I know you've talked about that too, Teladia. Stuff comes up in personal life. So yeah, I dabble here and there on my YouTube channel. It's I guess Teladia can link it. I'll send you the link, but it's not like super active. I just do stuff here and there, and then I'll announce it on Twitter if I get the free time. But I'd rather show up on you guys' channels,
Heck yeah,
out and talk geeky stuff like we're doing right now. That's kind of what I enjoy.
We appreciate your support and effort that you do, not only for the style movement, but for the stuff you do for like contributing to the Snyderverse, and you going to events and asking Zach the right questions, and actually asking the man himself the genuine questions, because we don't get like many people like you out there that ask the guy genuine questions, because people say, oh, Zach isn't a genuine guy, or oh, he's in it for himself, but the thing is he isn't.
no, those people clearly haven't seen any interactions with Zack Snyder.
Yeah. You can literally, if you want to go on my Twitter and just like see, I literally filmed when I was waiting in line. I was just so starstruck. I filmed Zach's interactions with just random strangers because I was just like, I don't know if I'm gonna like lose my place in line or faint or something. So I was filming.
What's funny, our other co-host brought this up. Zach's like the one director that you never hear any complaints about.
No, and there was
Everyone
no drama, no issues the entire weekend. Just fun, positivity.
I will say the most fun joke that we all laughed when someone brought up if Zach would ever adapt Doomsday Clock and said, "Oh, is that the Jeff Johns book?" Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, that was probably one of the highlights of the weekend.
I'm like, I'm a little disappointed because I would love to see that, but I understand.
You can actually see me. I was dressed as Batman, coincidentally.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually like stood up and was like, I was like, yeah, because we all, as real Zack Snyder fans, we knew what the answer to
We knew why. We were like, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then
So
DJ just drops the mic and just walks off.
yeah, he drops it. He does a mic drop.
He even
CM
like
Punk
off
style.
camera, he like kind of gave the middle fingers and
There
stuff.
you
too.
go.
It was pretty awesome.
So before we end the stream, guys, if you got anyone in the chat does want to put any questions to Josh before we end, you can have your last questions put in the chat before we end, because I know Josh has got a busy day ahead of him tomorrow, and I know he's got other things to do before.
Rebel Moon,
And
baby.
and I've got lots of things to do. I have to sort out with Jared behind the scenes.
How great is it, by the way, that the extended cuts of part 1 and 2 are coming out the exact same day?
I saw that interview and I was like, oh
yes. Well, I know what I'm doing that day.
Everyone's like calling into work, right? Calling into work.
We may have to do a 6-hour stream, Teladia. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yes. And Dave, by the way, you have got gifted membership, by the way, just to do. I'm doing this gifted membership thing every month.
All right. Starting off March off right.
Yeah. So but yeah, so any final comments or questions you have in the chat, feel free to put them in now before we end. Jared, you can ask Josh one last question, and I'll ask him one last question, and then we'll end it.
Okay, let's see.
It has to be a good question.
What is your absolute favorite scene in the entire Snyderverse? Like the one moment where you're like, this is why I love these movies.
Oh, Jared. Oh,
I got mine.
Let me work through this.
Okay.
Because, I was lucky enough to see all of Zach's trilogy in theaters, right, with fans, and that was amazing. So honestly, like, let me work through this, because the first flight in Man of Steel was electric, seeing it in person with people, right? Of course, just even the Zod showing up, "You Are Not Alone" invasion scene was really chilling, actually, even though we've already seen it. Obviously the final fight with Zod in the third act was amazing. BVS, the Mankind is introduced to the Superman opening, was freaking thunderous in the art center. But honestly, the first meeting of Batman Superman, when he hits the Batmobile and it ding and it goes spinning off.
I'm like, did you really think that would work, dude?
I mean, introducing Wonder Bat is kind of cool, Jared. I know you don't like to hear that, but
he didn't. So that's why I'm fine with that.
But of course, the Wonder Woman entrance in the third act is even.
I still say, if they didn't tell us that was Wonder Woman when she's walking off the plane, they go Miss Prince, that would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
If they didn't tell us.
That would be cool. Yeah. But honestly, okay, because it's in IMAX, it's going to have to be a scene from ZSJL. Like, because that is just forever. Like I told you, having the screen kind of rotated so that we kind of felt enveloped. When you saw Darkseid, Hallelujah trailer, when he does the whole, like, you felt like he was chopping you in half. It was so electric. But it has to, honestly, like, I tell y'all guys, like, genuinely, I cry every single time, and I did tear up. I didn't cry like boo-hoo because I was so excited, but when
the Flash scene, I knew it.
Speed Force, yes. That Speed Force scene when he turns back, that was just electric. Secondary nomination would be First Flight 2.0 with the Black Superman. That scene when he comes up in the sun in IMAX was just massive. Seeing
do you mean this scene?
All the hopes and dreams of Krypton live in you now.
Yes.
So I got two.
Imagine that.
Number 2 for me is the Flash scene, because you objectively can't say no to that.
Yeah.
Number 1 is So when Superman first shows up in that final fight, the axe comes down, it just clangs on his shoulder, and he goes, not impressed. Because this entire movie for 4 hours, they've been hyping up that the Apocalyptians fear Kryptonians, and then what a payoff. And then like the Justice League are juggling him back and forth. And also there was a Super Wonder scene when like he shows up and Wonder Woman's like, Kal-El.
Kal-El.
I was like, I'll take it.
that was pretty. She was.
I was like, and speaking of first flight, the first flight music starts, and I'm like, oh,
so
because I'm a Superman guy, obviously. So, because that's the beauty of ZSJL. If you're a fan of any one of these characters, you got a moment where you're like, that's my boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we do have a couple of questions in the chat. First from Dame Paler. Do you have any insight on why Jeff Johns had a problem with Zack Snyder? Literally no one else had a bad thing to say about him. So
the only thing that I gather just by, I'll be honest, as a comic book writer, I can't divorce my feelings. I love Flashpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love New 52 Aquaman, I love...
Read that Justice League run, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Justice League run too. That's literally, Zack was using that as his template, right? Mm-hmm. So regardless, I think, unfortunately for Johns, I think he was thrust into a role where maybe he didn't know how to really work with certain people, right? And so when I watched Stargirl, full disclosure, I watched the, CW Flash. I watched, stuff that Johns has been involved with, right? I just think that a lot of what Zack was trying to do was really, deconstruct, like you were saying, Jared. We're trying to bend these characters, right? And Johns, having been so involved with Richard Donner's Superman, along with Kevin Feige, right? They wanted a version of their character that they weren't getting. When they saw that Zack was filming and had a track that wasn't what they wanted, there was little things that were put as roadblocks and things to kind of like, well, now you have to go in this direction. You have to. And that's probably created a hostile kind of work environment for Johns and for Zack as people, Johns was, as a producer, was kind of playing, tattletale on what Zack was doing, and like, he shouldn't be doing this. He needs to be doing stuff like Marvel and stuff. And ultimately, that's when we got Justice League, right? Unfortunately, because of Johns. So I don't, I hate what Jeff Johns did to Zack and the product that we love. He got in the way of that, I think. I respect Johns as a creative, but I think that Johns should have literally let him do his thing, let Zack cook. And Johns, I think, I liked Stargirl. I'm not going to lie. I liked it. It lasted 3 seasons, and it was his baby. It was his baby, because it was based off of his, sister, and a character. And I thought the character worked. I loved seeing her appear. I don't know, spoiler alert, she shows up in Teen Titans, and there's a whole multi. I mean, Titans.
So does Grant Morrison. So there you go.
Grant Morrison.
I love that. That was great.
In there, Jack Nicholson's Joker laugh was in there, and like all kinds of stuff.
Shazam. So the DCEU shows up.
The DCEU was there. So, yeah, that's just what I think. I don't know if anybody else has any insight on Johns.
Partly, I think it also was it could be he was on board with what Zack was doing, but Warner Brothers started breathing down his neck. Because remember, at that time, he was the head of the film thing, so they're like, we need him to start doing the Marvel stuff. You gotta push on him.
So it's like coming down from the top.
I think so, because he seemed to be all on. Because remember, who was involved in making Zack's plan on those whiteboards? Jeff, Jim, and Zack.
And then at some point, he kind of became a company man and being like, the corporation. What do you think, Teladia?
I mean, I'm not a big Jeff Johns fan.
So, ironic, because we're covering his Justice League comic right now, and you're loving it. So there you go.
Well, there's a different story. I'm not big when it comes down to his DC movie stuff.
Yeah, that's what I kind of like. Like, I love his comic stuff, but when I see his movie stuff, like he had a big part in Green Lantern, from what I understand. I think, right?
That movie's underrated. He had a good part. He had a big part in Wonder Woman 1984. We all know how that turned out.
That, yeah, and that's, I don't hate Wonder Woman 84, but it's a massive downgrade from the first one. I can definitely agree with Wonder Woman fans on that. And yeah, I think Johns is good as a comic book writer, but he needs to probably leave Zach alone. Let Zach cook.
Yeah, it's the problem with Warner Brothers where they were like, oh, he's good with comic books. He should be great at working in the movie field. That doesn't work like that.
Nope, it does not work.
So back down, asked Josh, how would you feel if Netflix bought DC?
So honestly, like we were kind of, as we've been talking to Teladia, like I'll be honest, like I don't want to. I'd like to be a positive person. I love DC, and I love DC way before Zack Snyder. However, the way things have been going with DC, I have been very disinterested in DC in general. My pull list from comics has greatly decreased. I used to get all kinds of runs, I'd get Batman, Nightwing, Batgirl, Birds of Prey, Harley, but now it's kind of like Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, World's Finest, Rebel Moon. Like, it's just very, so I haven't really liked the comics. I haven't liked the direction of that. I'm not really paying attention to this new reboot. I know as YouTubers, that's something that some people, need to cover. I'm very disinterested, and it sucks for me as a fan of Superman and DC to say that I don't really care about that. I wish fans of that, if you're into that and you want to support it, or you just want to wait and see, I get it. I'm just kind of like, it's weird. And so I just mentioned that I watched Crisis on Infinite Earths, right? The Tomorrowverse was even something that I haven't really been interested in until I found out that Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill will be reprising their roles as the Batman animated series, DC animated universe, Batman the animated series versions, right? And apparently, Will Fedorell, I think it's
Will Fedorell.
will also be Terry McGinnis and Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
So I forced myself. It was kind of hard for me, honestly, because the Tomorrowverse, there's some good ones here and there, but like I watched Legion of Superheroes. I watched the Batman, the Doom that comes to Gotham, even though it's not part of it, but because it's Crisis on Infinite Earths, I was like, okay, let me see. And I actually liked that one more.
It's really good.
I enjoyed it. That's very dark and crazy, and I love the cameo.
We interviewed the director.
Sam. Sam, congratulations. I've been watching those. I haven't commented, but I've been in those chats and I've been watching those, and it's awesome that you got him a second time on that. So
third.
Third. See, I need to catch up. I only saw.
We got him on that one. We got him on Red Sun, and we got him on Suicide Squad. Hell to Pay.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that one. Then I need to see that one. So shout out to you. I'll have to catch up on that replay crew.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyways, I got to Crisis on Infinite Earths. Really loved it, and loved that it is the same Flash from Flashpoint Paradox.
Yeah, it is.
It literally is the same one from that version to the DC animated universe, where we had all those Justice League War and all those tie-ins, and then it's now this version, and very much a Flash story, which I really appreciated. So, but it was just the state of DC. I just kind of was like, it's a slog for me. So if Netflix were to buy DC, or at least get licensed characters, I might have a little bit more optimism right now.
Particularly if they license a certain director's work.
Yeah, Jared gets it.
Which anyone that tells you that's impossible to happen has not been paying attention.
Yep.
Yes.
We'll see what Zach says. We're coming on the anniversary.
So, I've got a final question, and then I'm going to end it here. It's a two-part question. So obviously, if Davis, licensed the DC stuff to Netflix, like obviously it's the Snyderverse, like Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Ultimate Edition of BVS, and Man of Steel. And if we get Justice League 2 and 3, how would you feel about that? And the second part is, are you looking to any are you looking forward to any stuff that James Gunn is doing for his stuff, like with with his Superman legacy, or Superman as he's calling it now? And how do you feel that what are the odds that Zaslav will pull the plug for that universe if it flops?
It's DC. It's likely.
So the first question was about getting the DC on Netflix, right?
Yeah, if
So
if the Snyderverse goes to Netflix.
so you saw me earlier. I was literally replaying. I have my Netflix going on. I don't know if you can see, but
Yeah.
there's
Oh,
Man
there
of
you go. There
So-
you go.
So
Yes.
because I don't know if y'all saw, I just noticed that it's been announced that all the DCEU that are currently on Netflix, Man of Steel, BVS, Suicide Squad, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, Black Adam, Birds of Prey, The Suicide Squad. So all of those are leaving Netflix at the end of the month, except when you look at Man of Steel, as of right now, from what I saw, all DCEU movies are leaving except Man of Steel.
Which is interesting that the crappy edition of BVS is leaving.
Right. Even Justice. Oh, I forgot Justice League. Justice League.
Well, yeah, but everyone forgets about that movie. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that I think it was the CEO of Netflix came out, I believe today, and said that basically that like Stuber should be commended for what he's doing, and that him bringing on Dan Lin is not a change of strategy. They're not going to change strategy. So anyone telling you that like them bringing in Dan Lin says no to licensing it is wrong.
Yeah. And yeah, so I just wanted to point that out, that I think it's interesting. Something might change, right? It might all of a sudden be a late announcement like, oh, Man of Steel is leaving, but it'd be interesting if we got those versions leaving, but then the ultimate version of BVS on Netflix and Zack Snyder's Justice League on Netflix. I'm just saying, right now it seems like Man of Steel is staying and everything else is going. So I think there's hope and possibility. If people don't know, Zack's been quoted as saying he supports it. He would love it, even if it's not Netflix. He just wants his stories to be told. Sure. Netflix wants it.
We all do. We all want it.
He at full circle. I was there when Skywalker the Jedi asked the question. We all know it's on camera. Zack wants it, especially on Netflix, because that's where he's treated right with Rebel Moon. Right? They love him and they treated him. So yes, I think there's a possibility, and I think that it could be happening very soon. As far as just James Gunn of it all, to be perfectly honest, for context, I love Suicide Squad so much. It's probably the DCEU movie that I never expected we would ever get, just based on the name of it, right? Because when I used to Google that on like search engines, I would get asked, "Oh, are you okay? Do you need help?" Because of the first word, right? What it says. So for me, that property and IP existing as a franchise in general was a shock that it got made. But then I saw the sequel, and unfortunately for me, I love those characters so much. For me personally, that movie did not work at all for me. I felt like it was very disingenuous to characters, especially like Amanda Waller, that I love that casting character. And I know James Gunn is a creative. I liked the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I did. I haven't liked any other James Gunn movie. I have not liked the second one. I did not like Guardians 3. And like I said earlier, I want to talk about things that I like. And there's reasons why I don't usually go on panels when they're talking about the Gunverse. Me personally, I'm not really interested. I'm not interested in his direction. I actually got to meet Rachel Brosnahan in New York City on my birthday, right before she was announced as Lois Lane. She had already been like leaked as like a potential front runner, and she's lovely. I love her. I love Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I watched Corn and Sweat in Hollywood, that series on Netflix. He's okay. When I'm more excited, just kind of like the Batman. I don't really like that movie either. I was more interested in Commissioner Gordon's casting and Alfred's casting than I was about Batman's.
Okay.
Same with Superman, or I guess formerly Superman Legacy. I'm more interested in Lois Lane, who I know Jared's probably not interested for me to hear, but I'm more.
Every time I hear the rumor that Superman is going to be about Lois Lane, I'm like, I die a little inside.
But I think she's more like spot on casting in my opinion than anybody else. I hope that cast. I wish that cast all the best. They're just taking a job right. The direction it's under, not something I'm interested in. But I wish them all the best. And if you are interested in it, have at it.
All right. Well, this has been a great interview. Thank you to everyone that has been here. Dave, the Imperialist says Snyderverse, Man of Steel, BVS, Ultimate, Aircut, Wonder Woman, Zack Snyder, Justice League, and Aquaman.
If we got all that on there, that's a win right there.
Yeah,
that's a win. Yeah. So with that being said, thank you to Josh for actually taking the time to do this interview, and thank you to Jared as well coming in late.
Surprise! That S stands for surprise.
Yes, it does.
It was a surprise, but hey,
it stands for not impressed. That's what it stands
for. Yeah, not impressed. Yes. So with that being said, Jared, of course, you get the final. Well, no, actually, let Josh have the final say out.
Final say.
All right. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you having me on. It's been fantastic. And so, Snyderverse to Netflix, baby. Let's go.
All right, we're out of here. Peace.